And now on to part 2 of Season 1, Episode 9, Emma Walker. If you haven't checked out the first part, I will link it up above. At this time, Emma was at a party, and she was getting these weird texts from a number she didn't know, and it kept saying stuff like, "I've got someone you love. If you don't comply, I will hurt them. Come outside if you want them to not be harmed." Emma was scared, but she ignored the messages like, this is somebody pulling a prank, this is somebody with the wrong number, whatever. Time passed and she got another text that said, "He's in the ditch beside her house. It's a shame you can all of a sudden not value someone else's life." Emma and her friend went outside, and a man was face down at the end of the driveway by like a tree, and it was Riley. Riley wakes up all confused and said someone kidnapped him and that he had no idea how he got to this house. He called his friend to come get him, and he said that someone knocked him out, put him in a car, and took him to this house. Because that makes a whole lot of sense. Emma thought it was odd and wanted Riley out of her life. Like, at this point, she herself was done. The next morning, around 10:15, Emma was home alone, getting ready to go meet her mom. Someone dressed in all black was banging at her door and trying to get into her house. She was so scared that she texted Riley saying, "I hate you, but I need you." Riley, of course, drove straight over to her house and was there pretty fast to make sure that everything was okay. Emma didn't show up to meet her mom. Her mom got concerned and then just went ahead and went home to see if Emma was still home. And when she pulled up in their driveway, she found Emma and Riley sitting out front talking. She was, of course, mad, and she told Riley to leave, and he did. He got up and left. The next day, Emma had to work, which helped her get her mind off of Riley. Him being kidnapped, the weird text, and someone banging on her door. So the party happened on Friday night. The whole incident with somebody banging on her door happened Saturday, and then this is now Sunday, and Emma is going to work and is feeling relieved just to have everything off of her mind and she can just work. That night, her dad took her out to a fast food restaurant and had dinner with her and said that she talked normal. She acted like she had a really good day and was relieved that, she was able to just work and not think about everything going on. Her parents told her goodnight and they went to bed like any other night. So her brother, and her parents were asleep in the house. That night, Sunday, November 20th, when her dad woke up to a very loud bang noise. He said that it sounded like somebody slammed a door in the house. And so he jumped up, he was startled, and he just ran out of bed to go check on both of his kids. And he said that when he went in, they were both still asleep. He thought that maybe he was hearing things, so he went back to bed. The next morning, though, Emma's mom went into Emma's room to wake her up. She had gotten up her normal routine and went through to get her kids up to get them ready for school because it was Monday morning. She said that she walked to Emma's room and she said her name and told her that it was time to get up, but Emma didn't move. She got closer to Emma and she kept saying her name repeatedly and Emma still would not move. She nudged her leg, Emma didn't move, and finally she, turned her or uncovered to kind of see her face, and that's when she realized that her daughter was unresponsive. She also could not find a pulse. She called 911 and told them that her 16-year-old daughter wasn't conscious and that she didn't have a pulse and, was just like any mother would be, very hysterical. With Emma being 16, the police and responders wondered if this was an overdose or a suicide. And when she didn't show up at school, those became rumors around the school too, which is so awful. Riley tweeted about her and said, with a picture of Emma, "That's my beautiful Emma. Rest easy now, sweetheart." 1 Corinthians 13:8. Be sure to remind God about our verse. I love you forever and always. Ugh. Everyone was shocked. She was so loved and everyone that knew her was devastated, and nobody could imagine that she took her own life or that she was even doing any drugs. There was, of course, a candlelight vigil for her, and people were just devastated. When the police searched her room, they noticed a hole in the wall, only about the size of like a pencil fitting through by her bed. That's when they realized that these were bullet holes. 2 bullets were shot through the corner that her bed was in. So one wall and there's another wall, and then you have the corner, and her bed was up against, the headboard was up against, so it's kind of like her bed was completely up against the wall in that corner, and somebody shot 2 bullets through in that corner. So not through the headboard, but through the corner directed at the bed. Person who could have done it had to have known that it was Emma's room and right where her bed was located. One bullet was lodged in her pillow, and the other went in her head right behind her ear, killing her instantly. There was little blood from this wound, and it was thought to at first have been just a nosebleed even. When the cops started questioning friends and family about who could have done this to this very loved girl, only one person came to mind: Riley Gall. They went to Riley's dorm and talked to him. He seemed normal and not of interest, so they had actually left and didn't really see the need to keep talking to him. Riley's friends were concerned about him because of Emma and the fact that he had tried suicide before. One of his friends told a detective in the case something Riley had said the Friday before she was killed. So this was the Friday that she was at the party and Riley ended up in the ditch, and then his friend came and picked him up. So when his friend picked him up, Riley told him that he had stolen his grandfather's gun as a way to protect himself after being kidnapped. Since his friends never really believed the kidnap story, they knew he was suicidal and that Emma was just shot. It was very strange. Riley became a suspect immediately, and when questioned again, and this time about the night of the shooting and where he was at, he said that he was at his friend Noah's house. And when they asked him if he slept over, he said, "I'm pretty sure I did. Yes, actually, yes, I am positive I did. I did spend the night." Strangely, he couldn't remember, but he seemed off by saying, "The girl texted me," and they said, "The girl?" And he said, "The girl who passed away." Like, what the, like, why can't you just say Emma? Like, you were dating her. Why can't you say her name? He didn't show emotion. He told them he called her crying and asked to work things out, and she said no, that she didn't care about him and that he needed to get a life, and she blocked him. He then asked, "Am I a suspect in her passing?" And they said, "Should you be?" He said, "I feel like I'm being badgered with questions. I hope to God I'm not a suspect in her death." Then they said, "Did I say you were?" And Riley said, "I hope you don't think it, because I wouldn't hurt that girl." They said, "Did you shoot into Emma's house?" And Riley said, "No, sir." He said he had gone to his grandparents after his talk with Emma and stayed to visit for 45 minutes before going back to his dorm, where he cried and looked at pictures of them together. They asked about the gun, if he had stolen one, and even if he still had one, and he said no to every single question. But Riley's friends told the detective that he had shown them the gun at school. Oh my God, like he had a gun at school even. Riley denied it. After this, Riley's friend Noah came forward and said Riley asked him if he knew how to get fingerprints off of a gun. This guy is bright, right? Riley said his roommate wanted to know. Riley also got heated with his friend for snitching on him about the gun in the first place. And his friend said, "Well, man, if you didn't do anything, then you don't have anything to hide and it shouldn't bother you." Riley told him that he had given the gun back to his grandparents. He said this to his friend Noah and Alex. And I want to mention their names because they are literally heroes in this whole story. At this point, Noah and Alex were pretty sure Riley did it, so they worked with the police and wore wires with mics for them and had a key fob. So if you don't know what a key fob is, you have like your keys for your car or whatever, but the key fob is the little device that has the buttons to unlock and lock your car, to do the panic. Sometimes you have a button to like push to start your car, that type of ordeal. That's a key fob. So it was a fake one and it had a camera. So they went over to Riley's house to play video games, and they set the key fob on the table towards him so that they could get him on video, and they tried to get him to confess. They would bring up the conversation about Emma, and he denied having anything to do with it and says, "And I can't even be upset because I'm too worried about being arrested and put away for a murder that I didn't commit. Never in my life would I kill someone that I love so much." He tells them he trusts them and says something along the lines like, "I'm trusting you guys because this is like 70 years that I could go to prison for of a crime that I didn't do." So once they kind of realize that they're not getting anywhere with this, they're not going to get a confession out of him, they start telling him that they'll help him get rid of the gun because he thinks that if the police find this gun on him, that even though it's not the gun, they'll still pin it on him. So when they ask, "Why can't you just give them the gun? Like, they'll know if it's the gun or not." And he said, "It just needs to be gone. You don't have to come with me. If it's in the Tennessee River, they will never find it." They said, "No, we're here for you." And Riley told them they needed to go to the police and tell them that they were tripping on drugs and made a false statement before. Oh my gosh, because that's a bright statement to make to the police. But they, of course, played along with this because they were still working with the police. They drive towards Riley's stepdad's house where he had the gun, and he went inside and came back out with a trash bag that he said the gun was in, but the boys didn't see it. They then moved on. They went through a fast food place, got some food, and were just chilling and eating, about to go get rid of this weapon. And multiple under cops were actually watching them in cars around them and trying to trail them without Riley knowing whatsoever. The two boys were also in a group chat texting with all of the surrounding cars of undercover police. So they knew every single thing that was going on, and the police were asking, "Have you seen the gun? Do you see him with the gun yet?" And they're like, "No." So they kept trying to ask questions to kind of get it out of him to see if he would get the gun out. They got to a parking lot close to the river, and Riley had put gloves on and started taking the gun out. And as soon as the boys seen the gun, one of them texted and said, "It's probably a good time for you guys to come now. We see the gun." The police automatically come up to the car and start yelling at them to get out and put their hands up. And since the boys were in on this, they knew exactly to follow the instructions and get out and put their hands up and cooperate. And Riley did not fight whatsoever, and he was arrested. Riley was arrested for first-degree murder along with other charges of the fact that in that trash bag with the gun was also the black clothing of maybe somebody who came and was banging and trying to break into Emma's house on Saturday. All the strange things, they were all him all along, messing with Emma and trying to get in her head. He literally made this poor girl suffer before eventually killing her. Later at his trial, which was in 2018, 2 years later, his defense said that he didn't mean to kill her. He just wanted to scare her and then come to the rescue. So kind of basically like he did Saturday by banging on her door and scaring her, being all dressed in black, and then coming to her rescue right afterwards. He thought the same thing was going to happen with firing the gun. But it is strange that he got that gun on Friday because he told his friend that he stole it from his grandpa on Friday. Doesn't really add up. On May 8, 2018, he was found guilty of first-degree murder. He again made a statement apologizing to the family and that he knew that he took away something that he could never give back and that he was so sorry, and again that he never meant to hurt her. He just wanted to scare her. I hope that this episode will bring awareness to relationship abuse because it's out there, it's always out there, and some people just don't have the courage to stand up for themselves and get out of it, and some people are so broken at that point that they don't realize what is going on, and that's why with your loved ones you want to make sure you keep a close eye on them, and that's where stuff like this is good to share awareness for, because you might be able to see these signs on what some abuse could be in relationships and know that it might be a lot worse behind closed doors or something worse could happen. In my opinion, these parents were pretty awesome for trying to get him out of her life. Could there have been other ways to go by this? Absolutely. But they did protect their daughter for a really long time, and I feel like my experience of being a teenager, I know that parenting is not easy when it comes to teenagers and they're going to do what they want to do. But still, I just want to say props to them for seeing the signs of how damaging this relationship was and trying to get him out of her life. And I did want to put it out there because I don't think I mentioned it in this case, but the party that she was at on Friday was because there was a football game that evening, a Friday night football game. Her team had won, and there was an after party going on at one of the kids' house, and her parents said since she had been so good, she seemed really happy, she wasn't dating Riley anymore, they allowed her to go to this party because they wanted her to still be a teenager, still be a kid and have fun, and Riley had to ruin that. The friends were amazing for what they did for Emma, and I think her friends were great to her as well, but to Noah and Alex, that was just amazing. Like, you don't see that a lot. For them to betray their friend who they knew did this, like, awful, horrendous thing, and bring that to light, a lot of people wouldn't do that. They would be too afraid to do that. And to be wired with mics and everything else and go through all of that, like, just insane. And just props to them for coming through and getting justice for Emma and her family. By sharing Emma's story, I hope to shine light again on just abuse and maybe some situations that are taken more seriously. Hopefully they will never reach this level, and just know the signs. I think that Riley was very troubled, and I feel like that's even signs to look at for your kids or your family members, whoever it might be, on if they need help. I mean, he tried to commit suicide, so he already showed right there that he really needed further help. And to know that it can escalate, it can get a lot worse than just trying to even harm himself. And I don't really know what his background was with his family and stuff like that, but I do hope that it not only shares awareness for your loved ones that could be getting hurt, but also the ones that are doing it, just to have your eyes open to that, confront them even if you need to. But yeah, happens all the time. It's so sad, but this is the end of episode 9. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be coming back next week with episode 10, which is the last episode of the season. And I wanted to mention that I'm planning on doing, I think, a wrap-up. So a wrap-up of the whole first season and kind of going over things. I feel like it would be a good idea to kind of recap each episode, go over the blog posts that I put out every Tuesday with these, and fill you guys in on anything that I may have missed while recording these, and also just to kind of talk about it. In the future, I think they'll be nice for cases that are like ongoing cases to kind of talk about. But yeah, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope that you are more aware of your surroundings and the people and the relationships that you do have in your life as well. But yeah, I also wanted to mention that I've seen that most of you that are listening to this as a podcast are coming from iPhone and Apple Podcasts, which is awesome. That's where I listen to my podcast too. But I was going to just throw out there that if you are one of those people who are listening on the Apple podcast, make sure you rate Caffeine and Crime, leave it a rating, let me know what you think. And also, if you ever have any episode requests or anything you want to add that I might have missed in an episode, like always, message me over at Caffeine Crime Podcast on Instagram, and I will put that into the blog. And then, like I said, if I do a wrap-up video or episode on the whole season, I will include it there too and give you a shout out if you want it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed episode 9. I will be back next week with episode 10.